These are the new, but also playable real-time strategy games, meaning those that had or have a demo, beta or playtest, and which have possibly been released by the time you're watching this video. First among these is Tempest Rising, which bravely put forward a demo consisting of 2 missions, one for each of the single-player campaigns. These will both last 11 missions and lay out the lore of the game world infested by Tempest wines and minerals, as well as the story behind the conflict between Global Defense Forces and Tempest Dynasty.
Storm is brewing, General.
Skirmish and online multiplayer is where the third faction is also playable, and all of this makes this a modern day equivalent of Command & Conquer, a game which inspired this generation of developers and RTS enthusiasts at Slipgate, Ironworks and 2B Games. This truly is a modern combat and base building game made by fans for fans of the RTS genre. Newest footage revealed some unique vehicles, like the Tempest Sphere, a heavy-hitting unit which can crush enemy vehicles and bases alike with its sheer mass and velocity, as well as the GDF's Shield Maiden, which can mess up enemy missiles, take down their air units, and drop drones which repair friendly vehicles. To learn more about features like unit abilities, specialists, base walls and defenses, support powers, intel resource and others, use the link in the corner above or below in the description. Bonus fact is that Frank Lepacki, the famous composer of CNC's soundtracks, also made music for this game. But he didn't stop there and created music for another new and already playable classic RTS with base building, Stormgate, made in the Unreal Engine by former Blizzard developers and veteran creators of StarCraft and Warcraft. They formed their own indie Frost Giant studios, and this free game will be focused on giving you the most advanced multiplayer experience on the market with their Snowplay engine, 64Hz tick rate, and rollback features. You will enjoy this game both with friends and against strangers in 3-player co-op versus AI mode and a 3v3 team-based multiplayer mode which will even feature hero units. Then there are the cooperative campaign missions as well as 1v1 matchmaking ladder with a tournament system which will give players the ability to create their own leagues. If this isn't enough, you will be able to use the editor to make your own custom missions and minigames, even drawing terrain, creating scripts, modifying units, and then publish your creations for the wide community to enjoy. Human Resistance and Infernal Host are just the first 2 factions of Stormgate, with more to come as development continues and new playtests are started. Campaign will equally be expanded with new missions using an episodic model. Besides hero units, another detail Stormgate shares with the next game on this list are creeps, or neutral enemies on the map. Both of these were my favorite features of Warcraft 3, which Godsworn will also have plenty of, as well as god powers, kind of like in Age of Mythology. It is developed by a handful of talented indie developers and RTS enthusiasts from Thunder Oak Interactive, and its gameplay isn't too fast for newcomers or too slow for RTS veterans. The factions of Baltic Tribes and Crusading Order are full of mortal men and mythical creatures, some of which have active ability with an autocast or passive ones, which makes them very useful and powerful in specific situations. Besides these units, heroes and unlockable spells, base building is a core gameplay element in Godsworn, and many players have tried it out during its previous demos and playtests. You won't be turtling in this game, because new resource nodes are spread around the map and protected by creeps, while you can boost production at your base. This means skirmishes with your enemy will happen all over the map. The unique system of shrines and worshippers is present in all game modes, including skirmish and multiplayer matches, as well as wave survival gameplay mode and the campaign. And what game franchise has a more memorable and fantastic campaign experience than Homeworld? This is what we are all hoping to once again enjoy in its new sequel, and waiting for it has been insufferable. especially due to several delays. The developers at Blackbird Interactive did let a select few play Homeworld's 3 new kind of PvE multiplayer mode called Wargames, while we all had a glimpse of its story and cinematic beauty through several trailers. Other game modes will be the classic skirmish versus AI and PvP multiplayer.
Moving to guard. We're on our way. Copy on redirect.
All of these will feature a new kind of map system in Homeworld, one where monolithic structures are spread everywhere on the map, blocking line of sight and making ambushes in 3D space warfare much more common. Modding, which will be available from day one, should allow for even more unique game concepts to be added by capable fans. They might even go the extra mile and revert the new system of tracking individual shots and missiles as physical objects back to behind-the-scenes calculations of damage versus unit health and armor. At least developers didn't mess with the formations and ship behavior commands, which are still in the game. This is a new game for a fresh generation of Space RTS fans, and the clash with old-timers like myself will make or break this rare AAA and fully cinematic project. As a totally opposite project made by one lone indie developer, Manor Lords has a ton of potential as both a medieval settlement builder and battle simulator. With multiple resources to gather, refine and produce, homes to build and upgrade, as well as an army to recruit and fight in Total War style formations, it is a gameplay mix never seen before on such scale. Almost like old Caesar or Pharaoh games, just upgraded to the Unreal Engine, minus city services.
You have been chosen to govern a land of great peril and promise.
What blows my mind is just how much effort was put into making each aspect of the game more complex and immersive, and we all saw that in the playable demo. Growing food requires planting seeds in the ground with the best fertility for that plant type, with every stage from land preparation to harvesting individually animated and visualized for the player with both settlers and UI information. People can grow food in their own back or front yards. They upgrade homes once their multiple resources and food needs are met, and pay higher taxes as a result. Your own keep grows part by part, while you can actually walk through your creation in third person as a proud lord. Recruiting the army for combat doesn't just spawn people, but takes them from the available pool of manpower your settlement is capable of fulfilling. If I could describe this game in one word, it would be hype. And a very different RTS I am personally very hyped for, especially after trying out its multiple playtests, is Global Conflagration. Its mix of gameplay elements from all the favorites of this genre has resulted in a fast-paced modern combat RTS with base building. The game has 3 unique factions featuring an extremely well-balanced roster of infantry, vehicles, helicopters and jets. As you build up your base in Global Conflagration by adding more production buildings for units, you also unlock global measures. These range from repair drops to cruise missile strikes. Units do have some abilities, as infantry can set up defensive bunkers or place mines, while other units can change their weapon type or boost firepower by spending a secondary resource called material. Global Conflagration's innovative capture point system creates a very dynamic experience on the battlefield and keeps you engaged at all times, thanks to its solid comeback system called Bounty. This game does not limit unit production, so you can have as massive battles as your hardware can handle in skirmish or multiplayer up to 8 players. The 2 talented indie developers are working on a single player campaign, as well as an extended arsenal of new unit abilities and game mechanics for its full release. If you prefer to play games with truly massive maps, on a galactic scale in fact, then Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is the sci-fi RTS and 4X hybrid for you. Already playable on the Epic Store as an early access game, it currently features 3 playable factions: the Human Tech Loyalists and the Rebels, as well as the Alien Vasari Rebels faction, while the Advent will be added soon. Stardock and Ironclad Games made this sequel with a 64-bit multicore engine, because their plan is to allow for much bigger fleets on equally larger maps than in the original. Here, planets are made to move and orbit their stars, just like moons orbit them, creating a highly dynamic galactic sandbox to play in. The turrets on massive battle cruisers and super capital titans are capable of tracking individual fully simulated missiles, as they can turn and orient themselves in real time to intercept incoming fire. Base building in this game is done both on planets and in their orbits, while pirates will try to mess up your empire from within while you are fighting enemy factions without. Between star bases, fleets of different ships, and powerful abilities of titans, this is a truly massive space epic. The only thing that remains unknown is, will there be an actual campaign at some point, or will skirmish and multiplayer be the only game modes? Luckily, in Broken Arrow, we already know there will be a campaign, as we all had a chance to play its first mission during the demo, while the closed multiplayer beta showed incredibly furious 5v5 battles. You won't find base building in this game, but army building, down to the finest detail of weapon loadouts for each vehicle or aircraft. No worries, there are also many infantry types too, from snipers, anti-tank and anti-air units to special forces and marines. All of these will fight to capture victory points on massive maps and different environments, including urban ones. Ammo is not unlimited in Broken Arrow, so you will have to learn to resupply your troops on the battlefield and return them to base before losing them to recycled points used to bring new units into battle. The military factions of the USA and Russia are divided into different battle groups, each having a certain combat specialization. The developers from Steel Balalaika have added hundreds of different air and land units into the game, as well as all the types of military weapon systems of the modern era you can imagine. To fully utilize and test out all of them, you will even be able to create your own scenarios and share them on Steam's workshop. Even cutscenes and dialogue can be added by those of you who have the creative flair. If you want a more compact base building and combat game, and in a different setting, then look up IMMORTAL Gates of Pyre, especially because developers at Sunspear Games have already organized tournaments, so you can find lots of gameplay footage despite active development. The immortal part of the game's title refers to three types of godlike commanders, which lead armies of their respective nations in 1v1 or 2v2 matches.
We will rally the faithful to righteous war.
They can add unique elite troops called vanguards during gameplay, have transformative power abilities, and can cast devastating spells. Besides your chosen immortal, here you start each game on sprawling maps filled with resources, with an outpost and 6 workers, more of which are built automatically. Single player is planned, as well as co-op, but for now this free-to-play game will keep you entertained with multiplayer, where the plan is for these immortals to be unlockable with money or player effort. The developers aim to give players optional complexity with unit interactions and control tricks, meaning many ways to tackle your opponent and his army. They will also create a system of skins and equipment for units and immortals through a PvE-focused narrative. And what narrative is more often used in strategy games than the Second World War? Developers at Best Way have been working on their sequel to Man of War for a while now, and I personally enjoyed their playtest in both single and multiplayer modes. They pride themselves on this game's historical accuracy, and with good reason, as they filled it with realistic models of vehicles, infantry companies and military equipment numbering in the hundreds. This time they are focusing on the battles of the Eastern and Western fronts and the factions of US, German and Red armies. The lack of base building is offset by leading and micromanaging your troops in intense real-time battles where units kill or are killed in seconds, and each tactical blunder is quite costly. You can also save your progress and then proceed to have some first or third person fun in the direct control mode as you drive tanks through buildings or physical defenses, blow stuff up with artillery from long range, or right there in person with infantry. The multiplayer is quite robust with many gameplay modes and match sizes, even allowing you to create your own custom armies of infantry, tanks, artillery and air support. But if you would prefer to play something in the vacuum of space, I think you're going to love Soil, the indie gem which features a mothership and a journey through the stars with a fleet you carry over from mission to mission. You can download its test version right this minute from the official website and enjoy 11 missions of its campaign as well as the skirmish versus AI. There are no hard limits on ships and only the available resources on each map, and your PC's hardware will be the limiting factors. Only 2 factions are in the game at the moment, and one of those is under construction, but functional to play with or against. As I mentioned, you have the main spaceship / mobile base, but also resource collectors which mine asteroids, a research tree to unlock new ship classes on, and then construct them at the mothership's internal and external production base. Everything from the smallest fighters to the biggest capital ships and carriers. It is a fully 3D game, so combat and everything else happens in all 3 axes. An overview camera mode will help you judge the situation in Soil with its much bigger strategic view. And having such a strategic view available is a simple necessity in Beyond All Reason. Also a game made by indie developers with a vision for both grandness and greatness. Units aren't infinite here, but with limits passing several thousands, you can build and do battle to your heart's content. This one is totally playable and free for that matter, so you can jump in this minute or however long it takes you to download it and test out its multiplayer real-time strategy experience against many other active players in absolutely massive team or free-for-all battles. There is simple resource collection and quick combat in Beyond All Reason and just the right amount of base building. Maps are designed for units to move and react swiftly, as well as to traverse terrain obstacles which can be generated by players as they tear down mountains or dig up trenches with massive firepower. The engine can handle this and all the weapon fireworks at high frame rates too, while letting you enjoy gorgeous looking map environments as well as those weapon and explosion effects. But what really sets this game apart are many additional types of commands, which you can issue to your units for attack, defense and formations. Next game on this list might not have the unit numbers necessary for creating formations, but the squads of mechs in Space Gears have other very interesting functions, like how they can switch combat modes and weapon systems mid-fight and give you a whole new way of using them in battle. This on-the-fly transformation opens up new tactical options and flexibility when you need to trade firepower for speed or speed for defense and so on. Each mech squad type also comes with their own combat abilities, which have cooldowns. Space Gears is made in the Unity engine by developers at Pentapeak Studio, and they want it to be a very content-rich game playable in PvE and PvP modes. As a result, they have made many gameplay systems beyond just mech battles, like having a camp on Mars which doubles as a terraforming base and production/research facility where you customize your mech squads. On each map, besides your main base, you will find points of interest and points for resource collection and use your command skills in battle. As I said, there is a lot to unpack here, and I hope you will give Space Gears a chance. If you are a stickler for base building in your RTS games, then Liquidation is the one which you need to try out. Its fantasy and science fiction universe allows for quick base building, and macro gameplay is overshadowed by combat which requires learning its fine details. Basically, Liquidation focuses on army cohesion and coherence, meaning using just the right units for each engagement. You need to recruit these with tactics in mind, use their unique abilities, as well as to study the expansive technological trees to get better at beating your opponents. This is how matchups are designed to be interesting and nerve-wracking till the very end. Winning also requires that you stretch your mining operations over large areas of the map, where strategic points are distributed, making yourself vulnerable. The more you mine, the more you can unlock tech and gain access to powerful and unique units of the 3 asymmetrical races, those being Crusade, Legion and Alliance. A similar setup of 3 factions is in Annihilate The Spance, a space sci-fi RTS by a 3-man indie development studio called Skyglow Softworks, which lets you build up huge fleets and equally big starbases which keep constructing new ships to throw at your enemies. These ships range from small drones and light attack craft to corvettes, destroyers, battleships and even giant capital ships, all of which automatically follow your battle plan in 3D space with the aim of blowing up enemy starbases which are continuously churning out equally varied warships. Demo of the game is already playable and the final version will have 4 campaigns set in its own unique universe where you unlock new tech to be able to access all those different ship classes. Skirmish mode against AI on custom maps is another feature along with a level editor which lets you create and share your own maps. Big maps and bases are exactly what is the main gameplay in Infection Free Zone, a real-time strategy game about survivors rebuilding in urban environments after a biohazard apocalypse. The twist is that the infected are still around. They are highly aggressive, both fast and strong, trying to overrun your settlement each night in horde numbers. A very interesting feature these developers from Jutsu Games added to Infection Free Zone is playing on any city map from the real world, using real geographical data thanks to OpenStreetMap. Your survivors, who form small squads, must find food, meds, weapons and other supplies to live and fight off the infected with those weapons while taking cover behind walls and inside cleared buildings. Other groups of survivors can help you with favors, increase your numbers like the migrants, or be hostile and attack you like raiders. You can turn the tables on them, ambush them as they fight the infected themselves, and plunder their hideouts for resources. Another game which has all sorts of enemy types and much more wild ones than just infected humans is Dying Breed, by the developer going by Sarnair, who finally has some helping hands on this retro RTS project. Here you can end up fighting against zombies and walking brains with your commando and soldiers, or run away from giant sandworms and explosive rats. Many modern military vehicles, turrets and Tesla towers just add to the experience, which includes base building. Dying Breed is basically a homage to the 90s classic RTS games, complete with a metal soundtrack and new combat on land, sea and air, including underground maps across 2 single-player campaigns. The world is based on an alternate history and post-apocalyptic setting, and one more feature reminiscent of the classic old-school RTS games are the live-action full-motion videos. The demo might not have shown base building gameplay, but this latest footage finally does, as the game is coming along nicely. A public demo on Steam is where I also tried out Cataclismo. It is an RTS just designed in a different way, because here you build castles almost in a Lego fashion and defend them from bloodthirsty monsters in a sort of a post-apocalyptic fantasy setting. Developers from Digital Sun have created a very interesting, dark but clean art style which I quite liked, and the troops you train to defend your creations are quite varied, with some of them being weapon specialists best equipped for taking down individual monsters and others tackling whole crowds at once. Do note, this isn't only a sandbox game, and it will feature a 30-hour campaign experience of leading an expedition in search of a key for mankind's eventual rise, along with a survival mode with endless waves of horrors trying to destroy your carefully or hastily constructed fortress. If you end up loving the castle building in Cataclismo, you can do so in a peaceful creative mode to your heart's content.
It began with her.
This next game also has a fantasy setting and its own unique but voxel art style, with 4x gameplay mixed into this RTS. It is called Heart of Muriet, and its developer from Microtail has reworked it considerably since the last demo. What is unique about it are its wizards, who can learn a whole array of spells which they can use across the large hex-based battlefields to help your troops and annihilate enemy armies. Heart of Muriet will ultimately feature a story-driven single-player campaign and seasons, but for now it has randomly generated skirmish maps and a system for regrowing forests. You will be able to make your own maps in the map editor and share them using Steam's workshop. There are ancient bases filled with loot and controlled by NPC factions which your units and heroes can conquer and pillage. Since units are in squads, they can earn experience and level up, improving your army. There are a bunch of resources in the game, as well as population, unit morale and research systems, and auras with buffs and debuffs. Zero Space actually shares many similar features and will have a cinematic and well-structured single-player experience, along with a fleshed-out and feature-rich competitive multiplayer for all you PvP fans. This could be looked at as a classical and cinematic RTS, but for the fact that it tries out new ways to make the real-time strategy genre more appealing to newcomers. So while it does have multiple factions, base building, lots of different units, and even heroes, it will attempt to reduce the necessary player input when it comes to resource collection, and tilt the focus more heavily on army combat, spiced up with skill trees, hero talents, and their usage. You will be able to play in solo 1v1 and team matchups up to 3v3 and in co-op modes designed by some of the leading developers and actual professional RTS players who make up Starland Studios. Best part is that even if you're not a Kickstarter backer, which you can still become, you will be able to get into a limited test and experience firsthand some of the revolutionary new tech powering this ambitious game. The solo indie developer behind Grimstar, Crystals Are the New Oil is equally ambitious and has been working on this game for a while now, bringing us a playable prologue and several other versions of it before as well. This is going to be a sci-fi story-based single-player game focused on a campaign in which you have a personal mystery to uncover and alien worlds to conquer and exploit for resources. Each of these planets have their own biomes and different victory conditions, like what you have to mine or collect from them. Both you and your hero units level up, unlocking more of the progression system, getting stronger. There is some base building in this RTS as well as a demo you can try out.
I'm here.
Terminator Dark Fate Defiance also had a demo and even a beta, but no base building. Its original developer stopped working on it, but Slytherin, its publisher, decided to finish the game in-house. And despite this rocky road and the fact that it is the first ever real-time strategy game set in the Terminator universe, I personally liked its tactical gameplay a lot. Just waiting to also play or at least see its strategic global map gameplay to learn will this be an all-around good game. Squad-based infantry units, tanks and fighting infantry vehicles of the founders were a joy to play with using their extensive and powerful weapon arsenal. Legion, the AI-led faction, was even more well-armed and armored, providing the mighty opponent for the underdog of the resistance to try and fight against. Needless to say, the live-action, full-motion videos the campaign will have just made me love this game even more.
Let's get this done.
This next RTS has base building, a lot of it in fact, like in the classics of CNC and StarCraft, but it also offers modern roguelike gameplay. Hence it is called Rogue Command, and here you build up your base with factories, support structures and defensive buildings. But instead of learning build orders by heart, each run will have you come up with new builds, strategies and tactics. After each level, you choose from a variety of new blueprints that allow you to construct new buildings, upgrades to modify your units, or hacks that modify the rules of the game for the rest of the run. Maps in this game will hide chests with power-ups, hidden artifacts which can boost your research, and ruins with hidden powerful tech, but also events and hazards. To master these challenges, you are able to slow down time, so you can take a moment to get an overview of the battlefield or pull off a nice micro maneuver. Similar map-related surprises can be found in Arcane Wilds, a very interesting indie project by the developers at Avancadia, who are trying to use more than a few novel but also classic ideas in their Western-themed fantasy game. In its playtest, you can find shamans, creatures, relics and spells alongside a system of reinforcement by ships instead of recruitment of units on the spot, and a global progression system which would make it play out very differently than the more classical games on this list. Resources don't magically teleport in Arcane Wilds, but have to be transported by your workers, and this allows for actually stealing supplies from enemies on the map. These maps have 3 types of biomes and are procedurally generated. Playable modes will be skirmish, online or local multiplayer of up to 8 players and co-op up to 4 players. Space Tales, the next game on this list, is single player only, with a focus on a rich and immersive storyline for you to enjoy during 16 main missions and numerous optional side missions, of which you can try out just the demo right now. At its core, it is a homage to the golden age of RTS gaming, capturing the spirit of epic space conquest and intergalactic exploration. Saigon Dragon Studios is a team of passionate RTS developers, and they want Space Tales to take you to worlds filled with dazzling purples, vivid colors, and a sense of wonder as you study alien species, identify their weaknesses, and strategize to conquer or coexist with them. There are a number of different buildings to construct as well as units to recruit, which have some abilities you can use in battle. There is a unit limit as well as 3 different resources to collect and spend. If you want to play an RTS that actually has no resources at all but uses time as the ultimate and only resource, then you should try out the demo of Nuke Them All, an RTS design like the famous Z game and its red vs blue robots. Here you collect and capture territories, repair bridges and factories which enable you to produce and upgrade units faster. There is a tech tree, a day and night cycle, zombies as well as aliens, and an advanced AI which should give you a run for your money. There are funny unit voice lines aplenty, nukes as the name of the game implies, and bucket loads of different units. I wish more developers tried making games like this and took inspiration from such a memorable game as Z was. An even simpler RTS, but with equally dynamic battles and no base building, is Operation Polygon Storm. The idea of this game by the developers at Toxic Studio is to tactically outplay the opposing player on a small and linear battlefield with better and more timely choices of units. You deploy your troops to the field and they automatically advance from your end to the enemy's base, attacking and taking cover. You do have to react quickly, choosing the right mix of soldiers and kill streak rewards, which is a separate game mechanic. Cover is destructible in Operation Polygon Storm, there is ragdoll physics, and blood effects are gory. Existence the Outer Reach might not have those last few in it, but it makes up for in 4X space real-time elements, like intergalactic conquest and planetary colonization. So while you're managing starfleets across the galaxy, you also oversee combat or colony operations on each unique planet. What makes these planets unique are diverse resources, ancient ruins, creatures, and ancient titans. These last ones can use unique abilities on the battlefield of planets. This game is playable in multiplayer, both PvP and co-op, as well as in skirmish on planets or in space. Ships used in combat can be customized with weapons, shields, cargo bays, and squadron bays, giving each player the ability to create unique fleets. These can even provide support to the ground units. The developers at Cozy Orchards want you to try out its demo or playtest and share your feedback so they can improve the game. Another already playable RTS is Drevepsina. It has base building, as you need a place to train big armies, and it offers over 250 campaign levels to play through. If this ends up not being enough for you, you can use the map editor to add more. An interesting way Drevepsina deals with training units is that when you order a number of units from the barracks, your workers line up around it and take turns going inside. The ready warriors then come back out. The original workers come out of homes, which do not act as population limit movers, but spawn points for it. Army control is similarly different, as when you want a part of your army to stay and defend or go out and attack, you place flags as a way of ordering those armies around. The balance between the different kind of combat units is achieved in the simplest way possible, with rock, paper, scissors system. Bunkers are another interesting gameplay system, as are spies which can steal enemy resources. I Am Hacker Internet War is a game of much different scale and gameplay. This is a very imaginative simulation of navigating the depths of the internet across the World Wide Web and combat with bots, even letting you hone your actual hacker and programming skills if you want to go that deep into it. A talented lone developer is behind this novel idea that merges strategy, coding, and cyber warfare. You will be able to play in the roguelite campaign mode, a sandbox mode, as well as an arcade mode, which is much more action-oriented. Bots that you can use are highly diverse. There are over 100 of them, with many unique skills they can employ in visually stylish combat. A single indie developer is also behind the next space RTS on this list, and he called it Age of Course. Inspired by Homeworld of the old, he wanted a space adventure with big spaceship battles, and so he made his own, browser-based version. Besides the short campaign, he has created 100 mission modifiers, dozens of fighters, frigates, capital ships, stations, and motherships. Along with that, there are towers and equipment upgrades which you add onto your carrier and move it in battles. The rest of the ships follow its lead and blast your enemies with a variety of weapons. This is only a PvE and roguelite game, so do not expect multiplayer. On the bright side, it is already and instantly playable when you go to its website. There is more to come as development is ongoing, so I hope you will give it a shot now or later when more is added to the game. This is the same thing I want to say about a similar space and warship-centric indie RTS playable already on Steam. It features a single-player mode with up to 11 AI opponents on a fully random map. Here too, the indie developer wants to add a lot more content like a campaign mode, a peer-to-peer multiplayer functionality, improved AI, additional specialty units, and an extra branch of the technology upgrades. What is going to make this game stand out among similar ones is a fully simulated resource supply chain with autonomous cargo barges, meaning logistics will enrich the gameplay and bring more strategy into it. Right now, this is a bare bones game, considering how early in development it is, but as I explained, there is a lot that will enrich it in the future. A completely opposite situation is with Stargate Timekeepers, which should even have been released by now if it hasn't been infected with the 2023 release delay virus. Not only is this a much more tactical and small-scale game, which uses an established and popular universe and lore, it is also made by a much bigger team. Main gameplay mode is the story-driven campaign, set in the universe of Stargate's most famous setting, right here on Earth and across the Milky Way galaxy. You lead but just a squad of highly trained specialists, each equipped for a particular role with specific abilities to use in combat. Slytherin made sure to create an original story which will take you 14 missions to complete and mingle with Goa'uld, Jaffas, and other races and factions. One notable addition to the gameplay is the tactical mode, which allows players to synchronize actions of several characters and take down or eliminate multiple targets at once. Something games of this particular narrow subgenre really need to bring more strategy elements to them.
What about SG-1? Have you heard anything?
Yeah, over here. I'll show you.
If you prefer a more light-hearted and simpler top-down strategy, then Age of Goblins is the perfect one to look forward to. Your goal in this mini indie gem is to expand your tribe of goblins and conquer the entire map, commanding them in real-time combat against other tribes which will try to stop you from taking over their towers, caves, and farms. This is a fast game, so don't be fooled into thinking its simplicity makes it easy. Lastly, we have another real-time tactics game set in the Second World War, but unlike the announced new version of Commandos, which I will showcase in my next video about RTS games in development, this one called The Red Glare is an indie project. The setting is South America, with a secret German expedition being cut off at their knees by a swift intervention of the British OSS. Character count is low, as it is common for this type of a game, but the number of enemies per map in the story campaign will not be low, but rather close to 200. You will play this story out across the whole continent with jungle, desert and snow maps during both day and night. Dynamic weather will also play a part in changing map conditions, and there will be challenges to play on even more maps once you go through the campaign. And with that, I hope you will enjoy trying out all these playable games, while I will show you more such RTS games in development in my other videos shown here as cards and linked below in the description. If I missed any, tell me so in the comments. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!